Oh, come on, get in. Right, no intro. I can go over and do the intro quickly if I need to, but I've had a
What, we
disaster.
live suddenly?
Yeah, apparently we're live now, which is glorious.
Okay.
Well happy with that. Hello guys, welcome back. Can you just say if you can hear us, just so I know everything's fine? Because once again I've had a few problems, but I think we're okay. Here we go. I think we're good. We're watching, we're streaming, we're finaling. Hello, Jim. Yes, we're fine. Great. No intro music, though. It feels a bit harsh, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can't see you, and I need a new stream.
Yes, dear. We'll do that straight away. Doing that straight away. Right. What I will say, just as we're getting that sorted out, is why is Luca Bish on my YouTube page? It's the first thing I've literally just seen in front of me, so I have something to talk about.
Who is he?
He was in Love Island. He doesn't seem to want to go away. Secondly, this is a reset pod. I repeat, this is a reset pod, so we need things to talk about. But obviously we've got some big derby games to talk about.
There's lots of football to talk about, isn't there?
Well, yeah.
Could do
the football signal. Sure, we could do the football signal. Because some people are going, well, I've seen a few people going, not enjoying the international break. Not me. Bloody loved it.
I saw a picture of you just screaming at like is the Allcott image when something's going well for England or QPR. It's like sort of one of these.
Yeah.
Which is
which I regretted quite quickly.
Well, because Germany pegged us back. I didn't watch the game
because it turns out Nick Pope's not international quality, and also because what happened? Well, someone went, you've been relegated from the Nations League with a game to spare. I was like, that is a really good point. I completely forgot about that. There's the stream.
I know we talked a lot about Southgate last week, but he's got to go, hasn't he?
Something's not right, is it? Something's not right.
I mean, it was unfortunate that we might as well have lost both games after last week where we were passionately defending him. It did pop into my head, that I was like, maybe they're right. Maybe we're wrong for once.
It did sting a touch. I must say, it did sting a touch. But look, I think the message we were really... Do you know what? That was a really good chat, actually, last week. I quite enjoyed it. But the thing that we were really talking about was respect. Respect. And has Gaz got it? I'm not sure. But let's
certainly not now.
Do you know what,
what is the fallout of this, that England have been relegated out of the Nations League?
What is the fallout of this? So they now go into sort of Tier B.
For what?
For the Nations League, where they will play lesser nations and therefore will have to win that league to get back into the top Tier 1. And in the top Tier 1, that's the top 4 teams from that go into the semi-finals, which we were in the inaugural one. And
but does it have any impact on the actual competitions that mean something?
No. Well, if you don't believe that Nations League means something,
well, it doesn't mean anything. No one gives a shit about it.
Well, this is what I find interesting is that so international football now, your win ratio is going to be a lot harder to have a good win ratio as an England manager, because when you're playing the Nations League all the time and you're in the top tier of it, you'll be playing against Italy and Germany all the time. So you're not going to win as many games.
Yeah, but then it would say that the win ratio really doesn't mean anything for international football then, right? Well, actually it's a better reflection of the performance, because you do in the internationals and for a lot of the qualifiers, you do end up playing a lot of dross. And I've said this many times. Let's just get rid of it all. Just have the big competitions, and that's it.
That's it. Big clubs all the time. I think the important thing to get across.
It's nothing to do with big clubs.
The important thing to get across is unless it's huge, unless it's the biggest things, it's not good, and it don't mean anything.
What? So you're concerned with the fans of Hungary and San Marino?
Scotland, maybe.
Scotland.
Yes.
Look, so what you do to make this better...
I swear we have this argument every year.
What we do is you tier all the best teams, make sure that they're in it, right? So they don't have to qualify. And then you have qualifiers for all the lesser nations. So they have to do the work to get in.
I mean, that's essentially the Nations League, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. But can we do without the Nations League? Although that said,
I think the Nations League's great.
Okay.
Because they're competitive games. Like I really enjoyed not the Italy game that was dull as anything, but the Germany game is amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm wary of talking about international football for too long, Flav, because people are going to go. This is last week's pod.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I feel like in the first 10 minutes of this podcast, we lose enough people. Can
I ask you though quickly about what you think of the Denmark kit and the Hummel kit? Oof. Have you seen? I mean, firstly, it's beautiful. Like the design, having completely blacked out or red out with no other white, looks fantastic.
Yeah,
I quite admire Hummel for coming out because they're contractually obliged to provide that kit. Yeah. If they don't, they'll be sued and it could destroy the company, right? So they have to be there. But I like the statement; it's good.
Yeah, it's very difficult actually, isn't it? Because what the cynics out there will obviously straight away go, "Oh, okay, they'll sell more. They'll probably sell more." Because I think people who align 100%. With the view of it and the fact that it's a nice kit will go. And also, just generally, we live in a world where you can buy other teams' kits and it's cool. And Denmark don't have the same. They're not sort of bad guys, are they? So
it's historic. It's a historic moment. It's interesting because in the comments, Tim said it's an empty gesture, but it isn't. If it's creating conversation, it's not an empty gesture, is it?
So this is interesting because I think it is. All these things are a minefield, right? But how do you? Because I'll be honest. Let's have an honest conversation. I've been thinking about the World Cup obviously for a long time, and I will be covering the World Cup. But I feel like you need to put something out there. I don't know. I feel like something needs to be put out there to kind of say that you don't agree with some of the elements of it. But I'm also I'm generally quite wary of doing stuff like that because I think it can be seen as an empty gesture. Now, like with Harry Kane,
so in which case you just do nothing. That's not
right either. Yeah, exactly. No. So I guess you just got to have some bollocks and do what you feels right. But
also people are saying it's like I think in the comments, Bawa he said they're still going to play though, but they're a member of FIFA. If they choose not to play in a competition. And bear in mind that this is the fault of FIFA. This is their fault, not the teams that are competing. So you're asking a nation to sacrifice I'm not sure they'd get kicked out, but there'd be huge ramifications if you decide to not turn up for a tournament. It's not something. It's like a Premier League side not fulfilling their fixture because they have some sort of moral obligation. They'll be punished significantly. So it's. I think people are saying it's virtual signaling, and but you got to have a conversation. You got to be having the conversations. You got to be doing something. Doing something is better than doing nothing at all.
This is what I mean. I think that a lot in this world where everyone's got an opinion is, I guess you have to actually shut out other people's opinions and decide what are your intentions, and kind of go from there. Because say like England are going to be wearing the armband. But generally, it's like people will go. Like someone said that was it Colm Farrell. I think it's a publicity stunt by Hummel. The question back to that again is what you were kind of saying. Is like, what are they supposed to do? And the only in this world of extremities that we have all the time, essentially, what you're saying is you have to boycott the tournament. That's the only way you can kind of get around it.
That's never going to happen. Anyway, let's. People have come for something else other than this.
Yes, Freddie Barber says NLD, please. North London Derby. So
it's
big
not
one
North
for
London
you.
Derby, is it? It's not North London Derby, is it? It's just the game where Tottenham play Arsenal.
Of course,
not a North London club. So.
Oh, okay. Should I change
we'll
the
move
title?
on. Although I know for interest, change the title for me
now. Could do. Changing. We're changing the title. Let's have a look at the. It's a hell of a weekend.
Lots of football, isn't there?
Do you know what's mad?
All the time.
Yeah, all the football, all the time, non-stop from here on out. What I would love to know in the comments, guys, is what's something, again, and I think we've done this a few times, but what's something that I didn't notice that had occurred? Here's something that I didn't notice had occurred. Let me
What's
just...
that?
is... Hang on.
I've got one. Just by Artur signing for Liverpool and Billy Gilmore signing for Brighton. Found out weeks after the fact.
I didn't spot that one.
Fuck, did that happen?
The Gilmore one, I didn't realise that. I think they signed Levi Colwill as well, which I just I'm still not sure if I believe it or not because I can't be asked to Google it.
I've never heard of him. I don't know who he is.
He's a centre back. Here's something I didn't realise: Man United are 5th.
Well, they 4
on the spin. 4 on the spin.
Are they good?
Hang on a minute.
Are Manchester United good?
There's your title. It's changed.
Scottish Saka just said Ross Barkley's at Nice. Didn't know that either. That is shocking news.
Nice are buying loads of players, English players. I think they bought Ramsey as well.
Do you know it's a beautiful part of the world? Not a bad place.
Nice. It's
not
Nice.
A bad place to play football. It's Nice.
So yeah, Man United, 4 of the top 5 battling it out this weekend.
Could this be the top, the 4 that finish in the Champions League places? Would you be shocked? If the 4 at the start of the season, if it was Spurs, Arsenal, Manchester City, and Man United who are in Champions League places at the end of the season? I would have been quite surprised by that.
If it's which 4?
If it's the 4 that are playing, the Manchester Derby.
Oh, right, sorry. I was trying to read comments at the same time. People getting angry. Yes, I understand. Ramsey is Welsh. I meant British. Close enough. All right.
Do you remember that time we were talking about Dave Brooks?
Yeah.
Is it Brooke? Isn't it? Brooks, I can't remember. And we're going, why ain't he playing?
He's class.
He's class. Why ain't he getting a shot? And he's Welsh. And I was like, fuck! I didn't know that.
I had a mate who was like, What's Richard Dunn got to do to get a call up for England? He's got 80 caps for Ireland.
His surname's Dunn. Couldn't get any more Irish.
So good. I love stuff like that. People have done it. Who's that? No, someone did that really badly. Was it Redknapp? Redknapp had a stinker with that, I think.
Do you remember there was the Rangers fan who rung up TalkSport or someone, or maybe some radio station in Scotland, and went, "What's Antti Niemi got to do to get a call up for Scotland?" And the bloke went, "He's Finnish." And he went, "No, he's not. He's not Finnish. He's good. He's good. He should be playing for Scotland." Goes, No, he's Finnish. He's went, "Is he?"
Round in circles.
I thought he was Scottish. Couldn't believe he hadn't got a call up. Brilliant.
What was I going to say? Where is it? Oh, sorry, I had something good there. Oh, Redknapp. It was Redknapp.
Yeah.
Wes Morgan, wasn't it?
Tom Hurdle said, he's not finished. He's only 28.
That's good. Do you know what? I mean, early surprises. Brighton, well done. Fulham, 6th spot. Hello. But we are here to talk about these 2 derbies then. So let's talk about... Let's do... those... Do you know what? I got a private message from someone saying, look, I really love your content, but can you please stop calling them sweet gunners? Really rattled.
It's
bit like yourself.
Yeah, but
do you know what though,
mate? And you're saying stuff that absolutely hurts me when you say it. It hurts me to say. I know we're supposed to be being balanced, and I'm always biased, and I can actually understand why some Arsenal fans watch this podcast or listen to it and go, "This is getting on my nerves," because I'm constantly talking from a biased perspective about Tottenham naturally because I'm a Spurs fan and I hate Arsenal. I can understand why you want to bring balance because this is your channel, but sweet gunners is too far. It's too much.
Sweet gunners? What
no,
too sweet. Does that negate? Does the second sweet negate the first sweet? Is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I don't say sweet Tottenham, do I?
No, true. I think it's amazing how it's got to feel. Do you know what also I've noticed? People think I'm saying my sweet gunners, and I'm very careful not to say that. I say those sweet gunners.
Right.
Okay. But they take on those sour Tottenham Hotspur this weekend.
Mighty Tottenham.
Here's what I thought about this. Right. First of all, the Allcott curse will strike them down. I actually thought about the Allcott curse, and I realised it's not a curse. The thing is that I talk about teams when they're doing well and say, "Well done, you're doing well." And so when they stop doing as well, it feels like a big thing. Whereas when everyone's hammering Man United, if they win 4 games, no one goes, "The curse is, the curse of you talking about them is broken." So I'm going to just continue sticking with the positive. But they are top of the league. They are at home. But here's my question about this game. This feels like, to me, is this a bit of a crossroads in the season? Do you think this is like maybe I'm going too far with that?
Is it significant?
It feels huge, doesn't it? No,
not to me.
Does it not?
Look, no,
it feels massive to me.
You can't ask me that, right? Because it doesn't. Arsenal could be bottom of the league, or Tottenham could be bottom of the league. It doesn't matter. The game, the occasion is always bigger than the picture of where you are in the league. I don't even care about the league. I mean, I do care about the league table. I hate to see Arsenal on top of it. Arsenal fans are going to be ecstatic about what's happened so far this season. Get it all, right?
Yeah.
But my feeling about this game is nothing about the overall bearing of what will happen this season. It's way too early. It's just all consumed by the history behind the two clubs and what our relationship is, and that's all consuming. I don't care about the fallout. Like, I mean, it's not lost on me that if we win, which is a tall order because Spurs typically don't win there, that we go top of the league and above Arsenal, despite how good their season's been. Like that is a reality. That is something that could happen. It's not out of the ordinary to think that we could go to the Emirates and win. So if we do, then we are top of the league.
Especially, at their place as well, I think. Do you know when do you play them? Do you know when you play them at your place?
This always happens. It's like October, we play away, and then we'll play them at home in February or March, something like that. And unless they bottle it again and find a way of getting out of the game, and then we'll end up playing them in May.
Yeah. Cancelled due to sniffles.
Yeah, a couple of their players get cold, and then they obviously won out. But yeah, it's like, I mean, what do you think? As someone who is not emotionally invested, why do you think it's massive?
I think it's bigger for Arsenal than it is for you.
Why? Because
they have had a lot of hype. People have been impressed with them. Well, I have been impressed with them, and this is what I mean. There's so many little things knocking about in the environment that make you decide on something, like if something's going well or not. Because, like you say, like Spurs haven't set the world alight, and they're 1 point off with a better goal difference. That seems mad to me. And so for me, if you beat them, go above them, beat them away from home, and what will happen, of course, as well is the two decent teams that they've played, they've not been able to beat them. Like I think it is hugely significant because it then becomes this different test. I think the good thing for Arsenal is that they are in the Europa League, so that means that the sort of the constant pressure in terms of high level opponents isn't there as much as it is for Tottenham, right?
Still difficult. I know from being in the Europa League a lot. It doesn't matter. The teams at home, it's easy, but away from home, it's always difficult and challenging, especially if you play a weakened team. And the thing with Arsenal's squad is, as impressive as they've been and playing really good football, I admitted it. It isn't, and all the money they've spent, it's not the deepest squad. Without any significant injury problems before this game, because both teams have injury issues going into this. The challenge of playing games every for every 3-4 days, which is what is going to happen in October, hasn't been there. We haven't seen anybody tested and we don't know what the impact would have on any team.
Do you think you've got better depth than them? Question for the comments as well and the chat.
Yeah. Of course.
Do you?
Our bench, every one of our bench could be a first team player now, if they're all fit. We've got Skip hasn't played a minute this season, nor has
everyone's gone quiet on Skip, haven't they, Flav? That's all quieting down. Everyone was hammering Højbjerg, weren't they? Allcott stood firm. Allcott said, "Can we just calm down about this Skip fella because Højbjerg's class?" And now, when I do a video predicting players of the year, all of a sudden, all the Spurs fans are chiming up. Chirping up, saying Højbjerg, maybe Højbjerg. Well, why don't you just back him when he was in a struggling side before? So just focusing on the children.
Skip has been injured since January. Hasn't played a game since January, and we're in
October. Hasn't been selected.
Hasn't been fit. Look, the fact that he's Højbjerg has been one of our best players this year. But what I'm saying is, my point is that Skip is genuinely class. And he will end up getting that too. We signed Basuma, who's Brighton's best player, probably ahead of Cucurella.
That's true.
And he's played a few minutes. He can't get in the side, or to be fair, Conte said he's not tactically ready yet. So I don't know what he's been asked to do. But I would say Spurs' depth is more significant than Arsenal's. I would also say that throughout a season, this is what they're going to have to deal with. And Spurs, I'm not saying we're going to do this better in October. It's a lottery. But there's a lot of experience at Spurs that there isn't at Arsenal. And maybe that youthful exuberance and lack of fear will actually help Arsenal in that way. But I don't know. We'll see.
Is Brian Hill in your 25-man squad?
Yes.
What happened to him? He's a struggle. Can we talk about Eric Dyer? He's so good.
He benefits from a system that's suited to him. Did he play in a back four against Germany? Was it a back four?
No.
It was a free, right? So he can play in a free in the same way Maguire's kind of okay in a free, although I saw how responsible he was for one of the goals against Germany. He's useless. That case. I've changed my mind. I just don't. Anyway,
who's useless?
Harry Maguire. Look in the middle of a free, and I don't want to tempt fate because anything can happen. But in the middle of a back free, he looks super comfortable.
He does look good. Yeah,
he's very very commanding, and he's a leader. And if you ever listen to the High Performance podcast with Jake Humphries, fuck Jake Humphries.
Which you wouldn't because it's not a number one podcast like ours.
No, not like ours. His personality and his demeanor means that he brings something to that dressing room other than just how good or in the past how average he's been. There's something else. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, he's doing all right.
Do you know what I find interesting is people being a good person or bad person is based around. Or a professional or not a professional is based around their form. Do you know what I mean? Like Eric Dyer, that podcast was done, I think, when he wasn't actually sort of flying high, let's say. And he came across brilliantly. And I think then people kind of knew, oh, he's all right. And then the form has come and now people, like, I'm not saying you're doing this, but I'm saying like everyone is really, really, like, they like him as a guy now.
Yeah, I think if you're just average or shit, it disappears. People are not interested in knowing more, are they?
Right, true.
He's been good pretty much since Mourinho. Mourinho, he got him playing, and obviously in that back three, Conte has trusted him straight away as the centre. I mean, it's out of the three positions in that. If you're playing a back three, the central one is the least demanding, I think. You just have to have composure and read the game, and then any decent centre back can play there. It's the wider two, certainly in Conte's system, where they're expected to join the attack and support. It's an overlap. Do you remember Chris Wilder and his overlapping?
Oh, I loved it. I love going around the side. He's currently trying to replicate that at Middlesbrough. Speaking of Championship fans, he's a Premier League fan. Adam Rosenbaum, for all the OGs who've been here from the start. Previously, the first ever incumbent of the ones and twos. He says, "Come on, you slags!" Adam Rosie in the chat. He is an adult. He is an adult. Yeah. Hello, mate. Hope you're well. Do you know what's a great point from McSlash? He says, "What has Heung-min Son got to do to get an England call up?"
Great player.
Yeah, he did a job as well. Go around side. That's right. And also, sexfind4.com says, "Free girls from your city." Just give me a little push there.
3.
See how sex spots are back. Yeah. Dyer's, there is someone to talk about the back three tax. He does have that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
It's tight, isn't it? It's just in the chat, guys. Say Spurs or say Arsenal in terms of who's got a better squad. Because I think I'm not sure about your back line.
Well, Romero's
good, Dyer's good, sure. Emerson Royale, Sanchez, I'm struggling with a bit here. Tanganga, Gentle Ben's a good lad. Longlaze, questionable in my eyes.
Well, he's been good, so I don't think you've been watching. You spend too much time wanking over Arsenal to see what's going on. The other thing is that Arsenal, for me, are playing at 100%. They've been absolutely, superb, admittedly. And Spurs have been playing at 50, 60. And we're a point behind them. We click into gear. All bets are off. Kane and Son, they haven't even playing well together. Imagine when they start playing together.
True.
It is interesting about what might happen, though, because the part the way Arsenal can get us is in midfield. If we only have two-man midfield of Højbjerg and Bentancur, there's been times this season where they've been overrun. And some Spurs fans have been hankering after a 3-5-2, where every time we've played it, we've played really well, especially against teams that like to hold possession.
Oh, you said on this very podcast that was the future.
I think it might be. I mean, Conte yesterday in a press conference saying that it's an option. It's something we can do, and it's something in the future that we may do. But because essentially we've got the three-man midfield of Bissouma, Højbjerg, and Bentancur. So that's a strong midfield if we can get it working, and then Skip to come in if need be.
The people have spoken. If Flav, they're saying that you've got a better squad.
Well, there you go.
I think you might be right. It's close though. If you did a 20-man squad, it would be close.
The problem it's not like Arsenal got some quality players, and especially Partey in midfield, who's an injury doubt. But if he's not there, then it's Lokonga. Is it Lokonga?
Yeah, Lokonga. Right? Or I guess I don't know. Is Zinchenko fit again? If he is, then you could put Xhaka there. But yeah, you're right. I know
you could do, but the drop off from Partey is gargantuan, whereas that doesn't exist in our squad. It's quite. We've done a lot of work to ensure that any of the players that come in we don't see a seismic drop off in the same way that you might see there.
Aram Heckmat says it's no way near close, James. They have one striker. Yeah, I think that's what maybe tips it over the edge. But also, if you look at the defence, I actually think the Arsenal defensive depth's maybe a little bit better.
So who are they? There's Gabriel and Ben White.
Ben White and Tierney, Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Saliba.
You just said Saliba as well. Yeah, fair play. That is a decent back line.
See, Aaron, maybe just really look. I've been floating around this squad for a little while now, mate. Do you know what I mean? Do you think I've done? I know what I'm doing here. Do you know what I mean? I put things out there, but I know what I'm talking about. All right.
The thing about that 3-5-2 is that there's no. If we play it, there's no room for Kulusevski or Richarlison. But it's an option, isn't it? It's an option.
I mean, that's what the game's about these days.
How do you think it will play out? How do you think the game will play out?
I don't like the time of the game. Can I say that?
Yeah.
It's not that controversial, is it? Do you what James said?
Is it that you don't like it generally, or it's not conducive to it?
It screams a 5:30 a Saturday night. It'd be great, wouldn't it?
Please, so in it. It's like it's when Spurs and Arsenal play on a midweek game when it has to be 7:45 or 8. It's murder for the police. I think that they do everything they can, the police, to convince Sky Sports to play this as an early fixture. There's not enough time to get drunk and be belligerent.
True. I would suggest that it will go to form a little bit, and I think the fact that Arsenal are at home is very useful.
It's huge in North London derby for sure.
Feels like it, yeah. And yeah, their fan base are in a good place. It's not like they're playing you where they're struggling.
No.
So I think that will play a part. I've got a feeling it'll be. What are the injuries? What's the injury situation?
I think Zinchenko's a doubt and Partey's a doubt. I think that's massive. The Partey injury, it's huge, and because he's just so much better than everything else they've got in midfield. For us, it's Kulusevski and maybe Perisic. Kulusevski's all but out, and Perisic they're taking a view on, but they asked Conte, and Conte said, "I don't want to give any advantages." So it may be that Perisic got injured in a tackle with Højbjerg as well on international duty, if you believe it.
A couple of people saying Partey is fit and he's fine.
So what are these guys? Who do they work for Arsenal? Are they journalists or they have some inside track?
ITK, aren't they? ITK. Oh, right. Okay. They always are. The old sluggies. I think that it will be a 2-1 victory for.
Just say Arsenal.
Arsenal, yeah.
Don't say sweet. Look.
I think the home advantage is huge. I really do.
It is huge. I think a lot of people are pointing to the fact that away from home, Spurs haven't done a great deal, but then nor have Arsenal done a great deal at White Hart Lane in recent times.
Do you know what the Conte factor screams 1-1 to me?
Yeah, I mean, this is it. Yeah. This is the while this is fundamentally always going to be a difficult game. Like we could have Pep Guardiola, it'll be difficult for Spurs to go there.
Yeah.
This isn't Tottenham of last year when we went there with Nuno Espirito Santo and just rolled over straight away. This is a different beast of a team and a different club, essentially, because we've got Conte as our figurehead, and this is a man. In Kulusevski's word, he only breathes success. He only breathes the desire to win. There's nothing else there, and he'll do everything he can to make that happen. That isn't
a bit like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, my own personal gains. Yes, I do everything I can to make my life as successful as possible.
You're a winner.
In this instance, I'm but Conte in Conte sits. He's got more responsibility than I have. It's just I've got to take care of the wife and kids. But but Conte is this is different. I do wonder what is this the moment, because if we do play a 3-4-3, which we probably will, Richarlison will start, and you know what Richarlison likes to do. Like, Liverpool fans absolutely loathe him, in part because of what he did when he played in the Merseyside derby. But I'm wondering how much Arsenal fans will hate Richarlison by the end of this game.
Do you think Conte thinks, I've got to get Richarlison in this team because he is that much of a wind-up, that it's just too... Because do you see Richarlison starting as an advantage or as a concern? Are you worried he might do a holding?
Oh, right, and lose his head. No, I don't think so. Has he ever been sent off? I'm not sure. He's done nothing to... He's more likely to
wind up
provoke a reaction from one of the Arsenal players. Like Arteta's message to the Arsenal back line will be, don't get involved. Whatever he does, don't get involved.
No, Arteta... I wonder what Arteta's got set up. Do you think he's got a new drawing? Heart, brain, holding hands.
It's a pigeon.
Yeah.
It's drawn a pigeon, and then there's one of them's a party with a rifle.
Yeah, just getting more
vermin, just with vermin over his head.
Pigeon, because we want to fly, but we must come home. Right. Yes. Yeah. And because of the young squad, they're malleable. They're thinking, yeah, okay. So there's a pigeon. We got to fly. Yeah. And Arteta just sticks his hands out and goes,
Yeah.
And they're like, and the boys are just like, pigeon. What's the pigeon bit? No one really knows what he's getting, and that's what gives them that little bit of energy that they need to get the victory.
Yeah. So I mean, like in terms of this,
I think the more I think about this, someone said, I think it was Malik, said 2-2. I think that's a really good shout.
So we just did a preview pod, literally an hour before recording this. And both me and my mate Mark, who's a Spurs fan, we both said we think it'll end 2-2.
I think it's a good shout.
I'd take it now.
Would you?
Really would. Yeah, to come away with like in the same position, you take a draw now. Probably, yeah. I mean, look again, as you're saying, this isn't Arsenal of the latter part of Wenger's era or the Emery era. It's underrated, I think, by Arsenal fans as that was. They're playing really well, and they are top of the league. So they're going to be expectant, and they're at home. Like we said, it's such a massive advantage in these type of games. So if you get a point and you're one behind them, and then they've still got to play, they haven't played anyone significant really, and that isn't a slight on them. I know a lot of there's been a lot about Arsenal haven't played anyone, and when they did play someone decent in Man United, they lost or got found out. It's not easy to do what they've done. It's not easy to put 6 wins on the... Is it 6 wins on the board in the Premier League? It's not. It doesn't matter. All games are difficult to win. The fact they've done that is significant.
That's such a great point, because the dynamics of football now, it's not like there's the good teams and the bad teams. There's the teams that concede like space, and there's the teams that don't, to a point. And that's so true, because you then have to be able to break down all these teams, and they have been good at that. And as you say, overall you have as well, really. Considering, I agree with you, it's not been It's not always been great. That's the thing that could play into Spurs' hands. Is I think you're right with that 3-5-2. Play Kane and Son.
Yeah.
And do them on the counter attack because they're going to want the ball. They're going to want to go attack you. That's my one concern about Arsenal is do they have the temperament yet in these big games? That's my concern about them. I'm not sure they have got it just yet. And I think you guys feel quite ice cold at times. So it could.
I think we know what we are, and essentially everyone's bought into Conte and does what they're told to do, and he's developed a mentality, I think. So from what I've seen thus far, that wasn't there when he'd come over. When he first came into the club, they talked a lot about this team needs to know how to influence a game for 90 minutes, and they don't know how to do that. And we lost to Burnley, and he said, maybe I'm not the man to do it. Like, maybe I can't deal or work with this squad. I mean, in hindsight, he's explained those comments and said, look, I just wanted to let them know that this isn't fixed by me just being here. You have to do your part. And the energy coming out of him now and the comments he's making now is completely different to where he was when he first took over the squad. So I think everyone's bought into his ideas naturally as they would. And because of that, from what I've seen thus far, and I'm caveating everything because in my head anything can happen tomorrow. So, and I don't want to tempt fate, even though I don't even fucking believe in it. But right now I do. Thus far, we've been. It's just been we're playing at 50-60% of what I saw towards the end of last season, and yet we're still winning. We're still unbeaten this season. We're still a point behind Arsenal.
This is Phil Bugild. Last thing on Arsenal, we'll do Man United versus Man City in a sec. The psychology is Arsenal's Achilles heel. I think that's a good point. That is my biggest question mark on them, because I think any of the plaudits that you're providing them is in those games where they kind of have the ball, they know they're better. There's not the same energy as these kind of games. So that's why I think again it allows not only the fans and everyone else to believe the hype, or the rest of the league to believe the hype, but for their own squad to believe the hype and deal with a team that will be very switched on in Tottenham. I think it's going to be a cracking game. The other game, Man United versus Man City. Anyone bothered about this?
So we did a show for Bet Victor Last Fan Standing show.
Great series.
Go over to the Bet Victor channel and watch it and like and subscribe, please.
Yeah.
We were talking obviously about the North London derby and the Manchester derby, and I was putting it to, we've got Boovy and Adam McCullough on there, and I was surprised by the lack of needle between them. Like when I'm talking about this game, the Arsenal game, I feel uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't like the fact it's happening, and that's why winning these games feels so good, because the idea of losing them feels horrendous. But if you do it, you take your medicine, you just crack on. It's football, right? But
what is these guys weren't. Can I ask you this question? Sorry, just before you move on to that. With when you win a North London derby, what is, if you were sort of breaking down the percentages of different emotions that create the cocktail of a North London derby win, joy, anger, whatever, arousal, whatever it might be, what is that concoction? What does it feel like?
Winning that game feels better than anything else I've ever experienced in football. Like, and admittedly, there has been very few trophies in that era, but I have seen 3, and it's like that, man. It's like it's. You've got to remember, I've said it so many times, but I've grown up or surrounded by them, from being a child living in Holloway all the way up to I left school from Highbury Grove. So it's different for me, I guess, than some Spurs fans, why my feeling towards them is so strong. But beating them and knowing that they're hurting is the best feeling on earth.
So of that 100% of like, what percentage is joy? What percentage is like sort of anger, needle, hatred? Do you know what I mean?
I'd say 50-50.
Really?
I mean, look, I've said this before. Is I get as much gratification out of Arsenal losing as I do Spurs winning, and that isn't That's why if they beat us tomorrow, it's a double whammy. And again, you just have to take it. But but I don't think that's true of most Spurs fans. Some Spurs fans even see Chelsea as a greater. They have a greater hatred for Chelsea than they do Arsenal, which I don't understand. Yeah, there are some out there. Not many. It's mostly Arsenal, but I'd say about 85% are Arsenal are main biggest rivals. But there's a few people that really hate Chelsea as well. And then maybe 1 or 2% have a special penchant for West Ham. Penchant. Yeah, but we've done North London, haven't we?
Okay.
50-50, I'd say. Yeah, but so I was talking about. Sorry, I was talking about the Manchester, and then the needle that there is between Tottenham and Arsenal isn't there between Manchester United and Man City, right? And just from what these guys are saying, but from an outside perspective, looking in at that, you're like, well, because Man United and Liverpool, they consider each other to be the rivals. So there's political issues there, and then there's also the fact that they've been in competition for so long, and they're two most successful sides in England. And because Man City have come in the way they have and have been built the way they have, I don't think, even though Man City have been significantly better than Manchester United for the last 10 years, United fans still don't seem to hate them in the way they do Liverpool, and for that they don't see this as it's like Spurs Chelsea. I don't get worried about Spurs Chelsea at all. I don't think about Spurs Chelsea when it's coming up. It doesn't bother me. But Spurs Arsenal has a special issue there. So yeah,
I get what you mean. I guess the problem is that the great thing I think about Arsenal and Tottenham now, is that because you are so close, that you like that helps with it. When people remember Liverpool did Chelsea with the Champions League and the sort of needle that came from that, it's because you're both sort of striving for something and one gets the bragging rights. Feels like Man United, there was 1 or 2 years of it, I guess, but then all of a sudden Man United fell off a cliff, and Man City just went into the distance, and so they never had enough time to create the friction that they needed to, and I think that's the problem with it. And so prior to that, Man City were too far away from Man United, and now Man United are too far away from Man City. Because Man United are like we said, somehow they've won the last 4. Are they good?
I mean, it's difficult to say. Again, winning 4 games in the Premier League is on the bounce isn't easy. And Arsenal were one of the teams they won against, so there's something in that. They had such a bad start to the season that any kind of run of results is fantastic. But I don't know if they're good. I don't know the answer yet. I don't know if there's progress, and a lot of Man United fans are a lot happier than they were at the start of the season. But that's because the starting point was so low. What do you think? Are they good?
I'm not there yet. I said it earlier. I did a video in the start of the week, and we'll put it out at the start of the week, and it was talking about Man United, and there's something. I think that the thing about Man United is that they're sort of papering over the cracks a little bit. I'm not there yet. I'm really not there yet, because they can't be. Well, the thing is, what's there? That's the thing I'm struggling with Man United. And
what is the expectation?
Yeah, I've said this to you so many. It's so weird, isn't it? Because literally a year ago, Solskjaer was there. He'd had them. They'd finished second. They were miles off Man City, but they'd done well enough, and the expectations then went through the roof. And because they went through the roof, then you get judged by this new set of rules. And not to bring back to Southgate, but to briefly bring it back to Southgate, I think that is the fair criticism with him, is that what he did for the first half of his tenure was brilliant, and the expectations were lower. Now the expectations are much higher, and he's struggling with that, and the margin for error is so much less. And broadly speaking, when we're talking about winning titles, you've got to be perfect now. And so then when your rival's Man City, it's bizarre. It's, we've seen this in a lot of different spheres of the world, where it's like, you've got Usain Bolt, or you've got, like Johnson. Do you remember Michael Johnson? Like he was just miles ahead, and so Roger Black gets the silver medal. Sorry, guys, we're showing our age here. This is a long time ago. He won
I don't even know what you're talking about.
All right. Basically, there was a 400-meter runner called Michael Johnson who was like ridiculous, like one of the greatest runners of all time, and in the 400 meters. It was already decided that he was winning it, and so really the battle was for second place. And Roger Black, who's a British runner, snuck the silver medal, and it was like, everyone's like, oh my god, Roger Black, because we were crap at the time. Like Britain didn't win medals at that time. And so he won that. Silver is my gold. Anthony said that. Did he say that? There you go. So, but for Man United, because they're so huge. Silver's not gold. Silver's silver, but you're battling against. You're Roger Black, and you're battling against Michael Johnson. That's what. But
we all are in a way. We all are. Any like whether it's Arsenal, Spurs, or Man United, or Liverpool or Chelsea, it's not good enough in football to finish second. But actually, Liverpool that would sting still because they've been in competition. Man United at this stage, I think second is absolutely. It's fine for them. For Spurs and Arsenal, it's fine as well. It's fine for them. But the difference between Man United is that they have gambled big. They've spent they spend. I think actually Man United spend more in wages than Man City do. And for that kind of financial outlay, you have to be pushing City for the league. And it may be that it comes next year, and it has to, because. Just bobbing around in fourth or third and sort of not, being in those positions, but in realistic terms of, the points difference between City and the others, to spending that money, you need to be close to City, very close to, and pushing them.
Does it have to happen next year?
Well, if they don't do it next year, what?
When does their money run out?
It does have to happen.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, they've got a lot of money, don't they? They make huge amounts of revenue. So spending money isn't going to be an issue because they're always going to be compliant. They'll always have assets to sell in the squad, which is some of the problems that Arsenal are going to start to face, I think, in the coming seasons, is that they're going to get to a point where they have to sell in order to buy, to balance, to be compliant. Anyway, Manchester United are a slightly different beast in that they generate huge amounts of money. So they're always going to be able to buy and spend. But it's how long do they do it for? Mm. Because... they're back Ten Hag. If that doesn't work, then it's just going to maybe he's got to do it next year. He's got to make a title challenge next season. Otherwise, what's the point? Because it's no good Man United bobbing around fourth, third, or even second and being nowhere near City. So they've got to find someone who can, and maybe he is the guy. But I think it has to happen next year, Jim. Yeah.
I see. That's funny. I would disagree, and I think exactly what you're saying is exactly the problem that stops them from ever getting higher up the hill, for want of a better analogy, because they will always have money and they'll always be huge. They've actually got as long as they need. So what's funny about football broadly is that progress and achievement are two different things. So you can, because the great Ian Holloway said this. He said, if we keep getting more points than we did the season before, we'll get to where we want to be. And that, I think, is actually... that's what needs to be seen when it comes to Man United this year. Man United don't need to finish anywhere, but they need to progress. You need to start to see it. You look at Liverpool, and when they had that first year where they were sort of still pretty average, and then you saw a bit more, you saw a bit more, and you saw a bit more. To jump from where they are now to be perfect, which you need to be because Man City are so unbelievably good. I don't think you can do it in a year. But what happens is the expectations go through the roof like they did with Solskjaer. I'm not saying Solskjaer was the guy, and the structure around it wasn't right either. But if they had slowed down a bit and really understood what they were doing, they might have walked towards where they wanted to get to instead of trying to leap and then falling into the abyss. Mm.
It's just interesting. I'm reading some of the comments here, like Martin Smith and I'm presuming Maram Matt is they're both United fans. Why next year? Arteta had 3 years. Arteta did have 3 years, and in those 3 years, it was 8th, and 5th. Is that acceptable? If you want to be compared to what Arsenal are doing, would you be happy for Ten Hag to finish 8th, and 5th, given the fact that you're spending £1 million a week practically on Varane and Ronaldo's wages? I know you're not interested in the money and stuff, but that's you can't be polite.
That's true. That's a fair point. Because what you're saying is that you've spent, because even Arsenal, yes, he's had 3 years and he's been able to put a lot of the other pieces in place, but they have spent money. So the money being spent has to come, and then when the money is spent, then the expectations have to go up.
Of course, yeah, and that's where the expectations. Look, there is something comfortable in not expecting anything from your team. I get it, and as a Spurs fan, trust me, there's zero expectation at Tottenham, and it's much more comfortable existing in a league format or in cup competitions where you just think, well, if it happens, it's great. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter. But the reality is the position Arsenal in and Manchester United are in, given the speculation, is the expectation from the board will be there. And now, if Arteta finishes outside the top 4, which is not, it doesn't look likely given what they've done so far, but if they did, what does that say about your board if you're still allowing him to manage your football club? I know that's going to sound mad now because they're so excited about Arteta, but last year there will be an Arteta route trending this season. I guarantee it, right? But if you're in a situation where you've put that amount of money in and recouped nothing back, and Arteta finishes outside the top 4, then what are you doing? Where is the expectation? If there is none, then what you're just happy to merely exist?
Trizzy says we started with David Luiz Soxitis. Where is Kolasinac? Of course, we spent money. Well, no one's having a go for spending money, but I think what Flav's fairly saying is that when you do spend money, that means you expect better, because it's literally as simple as that. But they go hand in hand.
I'm not attacking Arsenal here. I'm just talking about realistically what happens in terms of expectations.
You're not attacking it. It's a fact. No, they've spent money. No. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But back to so. Do you know what's hard? It's hard to talk about Man City, isn't it? Because they're just so great.
Fuck them. Like they don't exist. They don't exist to me. I hate it. They're so good, and then they've just added the best young striker in world football, and some might even say he could be the best striker by the end of the season. Maybe he already is. So what do you do? Like we talked about this podcast about, what do we do to stop Haaland? Well, what's an acceptable injury for us all to just get on board with? He's mustard. They're mustard. Great team.
They're just the ceiling, aren't they? Man City. It feels like more so than any other year people have really given up on the league this year. I guess because everyone's got to be perfect, and then if they're not, then you're miles off.
It's just unassailable. I don't think there's nothing we can do to.
In terms of matchups here, do you think Haaland will just go stand on Martinez? I think, one prediction would be, if it doesn't go to plan for Man United and Haaland scores a header, I think they'll be going after Martinez's size, won't they? A big way. He's so strong and powerful, Haaland, that it'd be stupid for him to not go and stand on him, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this is the thing: is if the tiki-taka stuff isn't working, just if you're in the last 10 minutes and you need a goal,
stick on the back.
You just go direct.
Yeah,
because he's so good in the air, he's so strong. You just go direct to him. And that's what Man City have this season, which can make it even more difficult for everybody, is that they don't have to just stick to that one style of play, which have been criticised. Not criticised. Some people, myself included, find them quite dull to watch. But if you add that extra dynamic element where they can go a little bit more direct and straightforward because they have the utility in Haaland, fucking scary. It's scary. Like as excited as I am about Conte and what he can do at Spurs, and I'm sure Arsenal fans are excited about what's happened at the start of the season, you bet your house on City win the league by Canada.
Yeah. Max K says, "Come on, Jim, you're better than that. Basic analysis. Oh, he's small, so he won't win headers."
That's not what we did.
That's not what I did, but what I'd say, Well, I think
you added the bud in. You added the bud.
Yeah,
that was a power move.
Yeah, what I would say, fella,
Guy.
what I would say, muscles, is
muscles
is this is
sunshine. I'd say sunshine.
This isn't just Sunday League. This is Erling Haaland, and this will be De Bruyne going, go stand at the back post. He's 5'9". on your head.
Sometimes football is that basic.
Yeah, I think
there's nothing. There's nothing. People are giving their own ones now. Champ.
Yeah, all right, champ.
All right, champ.
I think the one thing I would say is that actually Guardiola's probably not that kind of guy. You know, he would just go, keep playing, keep passing, do your thing. But it's very, very clear that Haaland stays in between the 6-yard line the whole game. And you've seen the goals he scored. Let's talk about the Dortmund game where they didn't play very well, which I could see it being a bit like that. I could see them sort of just clearing their lines, Treacle. And I think that, you know, look, boss
chick.
Man. Hey, boss man. Chick.
Boss man. Tugboat. Oh, it's going mental now. Champ is the one there. All right, champ.
Yeah. So
Buttercup.
So just, yeah. So that's all I'm saying, big boy.
Big boy. All right, sunshine. All right.
Yeah. So, yeah, how... I think it will play out like this. I think Man United will do what they did against Liverpool. Because that's one thing I would say Man United have kind of got away with at times, is they've just got rid. They've just kicked the ball away a lot. And they've had a few moments where which is fine. You can be pragmatic. But and I think this will be another game for one of those ones. But it's interesting. We were talking about it last week, like the sort of stage of which a manager's at is sometimes will dictate how you look at them, and the longer you're knocking about, the better it's going to be. And I think at this stage that will suit Ten Hag, because he can, and he has been careful, not trying to play it out too much. But it's going to be interesting. But I expect Man City to win that. Yeah. It is. Sweet cheeks, honey bun, got it all here. Twinkle toes. Sorry, Sunbeam.
When you think about the word twinkle toes, which player comes to mind? I wonder if it won't be the same one, because mine's a little bit random. But
mine's a bit random as well. Kincladze, yeah, that's a good shout. That is a good shout. Jose Dominguez just popped into my head for some reason. That's odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whilst speaking about the 90s briefly, I was reading this whilst I was on holiday. I was reading this thing on Baggio. Oh, what player he was. But he scored. I can't remember how many goals he scored. But he was playing for Fiorentina and he kept them up, right? But in that Italian Serie A season when Maradona won the league, there was a team that stayed up and scored 13 goals. The whole season. They stayed up. They won 8 of those games that they scored in.
Wow.
And they stayed up scoring 13 goals.
Sounds like West Ham this season. How many goals will West Ham score this season? They've scored 3 so far.
They scored 3 so far.
They've scored 10 in the last 14, and 4 of those were against Norwich.
Ouch. And they've brought in a lot of attacking players as well, haven't they?
Well, yeah, like the West Ham fans are going mental because Scamacca hasn't had a sniff really yet, and he's been playing well for Italy.
What are we saying with Moyes? Are we getting close to?
Whoa, what are we saying, like, mate? Because let's have a little look at the league table, shall we? Have a little look. How many games can West Ham lose from this perspective, from this point, before he gets fired?
I think he's safe until.
And he has got credit in the bank, but how safe is he? I reckon if he loses 3 more games, he's gone. 2 maybe.
I saw a comment and it said, "Think about that." It was like it's quite a flabbergasted comment, and it basically someone went, "Thing with Moyes is he just won't change." I was like, this guy was a god 6 months ago. He's an absolute god 6 months ago.
It's a football fan's prerogative to just talk shit. I mean, look at me. I've made a career out of it. Out of that 3, who's in the most precarious position? It's Brendan Rodgers, right? Leicester City. Brendan Rodgers. I think he's probably on decent money, so Leicester probably looking at it going, hopefully he can just work this out. And for an hour against Spurs, Leicester looked good. Steve Cooper, like, is he staying until they go down? What do they do there? They've signed 22 players. What do you do in that instance? If your Forest fans are going to say keep him regardless because they remember where they were, what do you, if you owned Nottingham Forest, what do you do?
Well, obviously the owner is addicted to transfers, and it's the deadline's gone now, so the only transfer he can do now, just to sort of to help with his addiction, is the manager. Yeah,
get him out.
Yeah.
I mean, and what were the implications? Because we've been really critical of. I have been critical of Norwich's approach to these things in kind of getting balloon payments, and all the glory and money that comes with Premier League football, but they're happy to go down and not compete really. Whereas Nottingham Forest were the opposite of that. And you mentioned that, they might be in trouble because of the amount of money they've spent, that they don't have the security that Norwich do and West Brom have previously in Fulham, because they have speculated in such a significant way. They've spent pretty much every penny they have from the Premier League money, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And what I think is interesting about the Forest thing is that I think they would sell everyone fine, but like everyone would know that they need to sell them all. So that would be fascinating.
I mean, I wonder how many relegation clauses are in those contracts, and people like how many of those players, like Lingard's looked at it and gone, "I want 1 year," because he knew I don't want to be trapped at Forest. It's mad. I wonder it'd be interesting to talk to Forest about what they're feeling at the moment.
But what about they're all quite angry? They're all quite angry about it.
Are they?
No, they're angry that people have changed their minds on Forest because everyone's turned on Forest. And they're a little bit annoyed about it.
This is the problem with the Premier League. There's no grace.
Everyone's coming for you.
Everyone's coming.
I think. Look, if they're on 12 games and they've got 4 points, that's you're gonna have to start thinking about making a change, aren't you?
Yeah, but who?
Well, I'm sure
because there's not. Is there room for sentiment in this conversation for Steve Cooper? Do you just say stick with him and going to know that he'll get you back up?
Possibly. That would be a unique and very brave view, because normally it's the opposite, isn't it? It's like, change it, right? Let's fix this. Let's get someone else in. Let's get Watford have done it again this week. Rob Evans got the sack. Can you believe it?
Yeah, I've seen that. They do it every year, don't they? Once Bilic come in.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it feels different. I've said that a couple of times. It feels different with Forest now at this moment in time. West Ham, I expect them to. They'll be fine, I think, and I think Moyes would be fine. I'd be amazed if Moyes gets sacked this season. I think he'll make.
If he gets sacked, if there's a better option available, like say somehow Pochettino went, I'll take over West Ham, then you sack him immediately.
Sure. Yeah. Good point. Leicester, it sounds like they're going to just stick with him.
I think he will get it right. I do. I think he will keep them up. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's got to be able. The squad's good enough to stay up for sure. It's just 100%. How dire does it all feel? I think I wonder how many of their squad was actually away on international duty, because a lot of their first team won't have been. But yeah, it's a bloody good league. It's a bloody good league. I quite enjoy covering it. Right, way too much football chat, if I'm honest. But
it's a reset pod, isn't it?
It's a reset pod, isn't it?
Reset pod. We'll there's plenty of comments and whatnot from last week, so we'll build a running order so that.
Yeah, I've been away.
Busy.
It's my first morning back.
First morning back. Been busy. It's been busy, mate.
So, any new ideas for new bits? Get them in the comments. If you are watching live right now, thank you. Been pretty concurrent on 1,700 odd. If you could hit the like button on the way out, that'd be lovely. And even cheekier, hit the subscribe button. That would be lovely. And even cheekier than that, become a patron, because the mailbags will return next week. Because our holidays are done, aren't they? For a little bit. Football now.
Back. Oh God, there's 13 games. I'm just thinking about it. 13 games. That's at least 4 hours per game. Fucking hell.
And
can't wait.
Max K in particular, big boy, sweetheart, sweet cheeks. Have a great weekend, champ. All right.
Champ. Back in your box.
Right, guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. And I'll see you on the other side. Oh, and by